I don't need to tell you, it takes effort and lots of it to keep a family connected, happy, and healthy. And all of that effort has a name. Did you know? It's called kinkeeping. The New York Times defines kinkeeping as creating or carrying on family traditions, buying gifts for birthdays and holidays, coordinating medical care, and performing all sorts of emotional caregiving. They went on to say it's a form of invisible labor, predominantly done by women, no surprise, dedicated to family bonding and magic making. Don't you feel, seen, validated, just reading that definition? I mean, it is invisible labor, after all, labor that oftentimes goes unnoticed, but women do it anyway, and you do it so well. So we wanted to recognize your efforts today, wrapped up in that beautiful definition of kinkeeping. Studio 5 parenting contributor Heather Johnson is going to help us do that. Tell me your skin wasn't just electric when you read that, heard that, thought about that.
It's just the best. I mean, who doesn't want to be that, right? Who doesn't want to be a kinkeeper and help connect generations and keep the stability that comes with it? It is so beautiful to consider that we're giving it a name.
And it is a hard job. It takes consistent effort and stamina, and yet women continue holiday after holiday, year after year, Sunday dinner after Sunday dinner to put it forward, even when they sometimes, I'm guessing, don't feel recognized, darn it. And so isn't it beautiful to have a name that kind of puts a spotlight on this beautiful work?
Yeah, I love that there's part of that definition that says magic making, right? Because
yes,
this gets even bigger than, are we making sure that Christmas looks a certain way? This is those very small things, like the kinkeeper who recognizes that making a phone call to each of the siblings once a month connects them, right? It's those small things where you're remembering birthdays, and so you just drop the text because birthdays tend to always be on your mind. It's those little tiny things, and it's so amazing to see the benefits that come to families who are filled with kinkeepers.
Let's talk about that, the benefits. Author of the article, Danielle Friedman, describes kinkeeper as someone who in many ways is the family glue. Heather, how does kinkeeping bind families together? What are the positive side effects of a family when that family has a kinkeeper?
Well, one of the first things we see is that there is connection. There is genuine connection. And of course there would be. You are entangled with one another in the coolest of ways, right? In the remembering, in the importance, in the carrying on of traditions. The thing about connection is it needs to be intentional. And so when there's families who are bound by this kinkeeping, there is this connection that comes through being very, very intentional. There's opportunities to have an identity, which we desperately need, especially as young adults, as teenagers, as kids. They're desperate for an identity.
So individual identity.
Individual identity that comes in a bigger format, in a sense of belonging. When we're connected, when there's that kinkeeping and remembering, and we've got holidays and traditions, now we're connected, and I know I'm part of this family. I know where I belong. Another benefit that I love is that it's predictable. Now, we know what's going to happen at Christmas. We know we're going to get a call from grandma on our birthday. We know these things. Predictability helps us feel safe.
And may I say, in the face of a world that is completely unpredictable, out there it's the wild, wild west.
Right,
to feel that safety inside this family connection unit, that's amazing.
It means everything. In fact, we've probably been in situations, I can think growing up, you know, we carry out certain traditions.
Yeah.
And times where, for some reason, one of those traditions maybe didn't get enacted, and everyone goes, wait
what?
a second.
They're in panic.
We always do it this way, right? Or I remember one year, as silly as this is, we had a certain Christmas decoration, and one year my brothers decided to mix up all the letters on it. And everyone who walked in was like, wait, that's not how the letters go. Like, we don't do it that way.
Yeah.
That safety of who I belong to and where I belong, we feel really good when things are predictable.
And to think something as grand as safety and security can come in these simple drops is
the
pretty
intentionality.
Cool.
You know,
magic.
We've been looking at these types of things. Essentially, we've got kind of a foundational study back in the 1950s that started to look at families and kinkeeping and them doing these things and carrying them out and the benefits. We've seen these benefits through every single study we have ever done. It comes back to safety and security and connection, a way to enact values and that predictability.
The article does point out, doesn't shy away from, the idea that kinkeeping, and we touched on this, is often a thankless job. In one viral TikTok post describing kinkeeping, creator Molly Westcott compared kinkeeping to play, and she said, women are the production crew. They're the ushers and everyone else working off stage. There's a lot of effort and time and energy that goes into a play, but at the end of the day, when the play is done, people are not clapping for everything they did not see. Do you remember feeling this as a young mother? Like, as you're transitioning to like full motherhood, I remember thinking, oh, my mom and my grandma did this. They were the pulling the curtain and adjusting the lights, and you start to take on that mantle, and it can feel heavy sometimes.
It can feel heavy, and sometimes when it starts to feel heavy, we can get resentful if we're not careful. And so understanding resentment, it's this place where we've got this mix between kind of this anger and this disappointment. Resentment in and of itself that shows up when we're kinkeeping and maybe feel like it's a thankless job. It is really by definition re-feeling something. So it's feeling disappointed or unseen and then going back and ruminating over that over and over and over again. And we don't want to feel resentful about something that is so beautiful. I'm not sure there's a greater gift you could give your family or generations connected than being willing to put in energy and effort to keep you connected. So in order to step away from this is thankless and I feel this resentment, we want to take a step back and instead of seeing it as an obligation or something that no one else is willing to do, so I have to, we want to see it as a privilege. This is an absolute privilege to hold this place in your family system. It's a privilege to be there. For it to be a privilege, it means that we've been given the talents and the skills and the abilities. It means that we have essentially a testimony of the power behind kinkeeping. That's a pretty beautiful thing when we look at it that way.
It is beautiful. It sounds lovely. When I'm actually thinking of women in the thick of it, in the throes of it, trying to fend off that resentment because it is such an honor. How do I do that? Is that a mind shift? Is that reminding myself of this privilege?
Absolutely. It's shifting it from I have to do this to what a blessing that I get to do this. That immediately will take us into a space of gratitude where we're going to be grateful for capacity, where we're going to be grateful for the talents and abilities. We're going to be grateful for the value system that encourages us to do this. But it also means that if we want to shift out of that space, we need to stop having expectations for other people. When we're kinkeeping, we tend to sometimes feel overwhelmed, right? We felt it as new moms. Well, we felt it as older moms, right? We feel it in holidays and birth. We feel that. And in order to work through the overwhelm, we sometimes look at other people and have expectations of them. And the best thing we can do to move away from the resentment in the thick of it is to only expect of us. What do I expect of me at Christmas when it comes to extended family?
And essentially, I have to imagine doing it for you.
Right.
I mean, the ripple effects are outward, but like you have to do it because you want to do it.
Because you want to do it, or because you genuinely have a belief system that inspires you to do it. Because if I look at just what I want to do, I might not kinkeep the same way.
Good point.
Right? But if I do look at it and say, I actually believe and value these connections, now it's going to be a motivation, and I'm going to expect just of me instead of other people.
In conclusion, writer and researcher Eve Rodsky said this about the importance of kinkeeping. She said, think about what's at stake. The quality of your relationships are built in these small moments. Any final thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's 100% true. When we are connecting with family members, with people, we connect when situations are coordinated and then when they're repeated and when they're meaningful. I don't know if there's a better definition of meaningful patterns of interaction with each other than these small ways that we can keep. Literally remembering a birthday, adding extra energy to a Christmas, making sure that grandma's rolls are on the table every single year, being aware of your family history and being willing to pass on those stories. That is kinkeeping. Anytime we add meaning or significance to anything, it connects people. And kinkeepers are masters at that. They are just so good. So it's in the little teeny tiny things that we will give meaning to every single day.
And to think of that opportunity, so beautifully said, to think of that opportunity hitting women in all stages, all ages, all situations of life, like the opportunity is there to seize and to...
We've been built for it.
We've been built for it. Amen, sister. Thank you so much. Heather has a private practice, we'll remind you, where she coaches families and couples, individuals too. We'll link you over from our website. And here's to kinkeeping and the kinkeepers who make the magic.